I sit at 90 kg, and I did a competition last year where there was a 88 kg or a 93 kg, and it was only a gi competition, so we're talking about jiu-jitsu here. And the gi, I'm not sure how much it weighed, around one or maybe, I don't know, half a kilo to 1 kilo. So I would have to get to 87, which was too much for me. At that time, I was probably more like 92, so I didn't want to cut 4 or 5 kilos for my first competition and just get roasted. So I I went up to 93. So I was cruising. I thought, okay, I don't have to drop anything. But usually, because I have such a high calorie allowance per day, I have to get in about 3,500 just to maintain my weight. So I usually start the day with a smoothie that's jam packed with a ton of calories. It's usually around 1,500 calories just so I get a head start on the day. And I thought that's probably not the best idea to drink 1.5 liters of liquid before a jiu-jitsu fight. I'll weigh more, but also I feel slightly sluggish after it. So I thought it would be okay, it'd be relatively easy, so I skipped that. But then I didn't know what to eat, and then I had to leave for the competition, and then I ended up eating a sandwich out of the cafe. I was super nervous, so I didn't sleep very well. I didn't expect myself to be so nervous, but I was extremely nervous. And I usually have coffee 2 a day, 2 or 3 a day, and I had one when I woke up, and then I had one when I got there as well, just because I thought, I know the research, caffeine has performance benefits, but I was so nervous I couldn't eat. My heart rate was pretty jacked up, even just kind of walking around, just being at the competition, looking around at the fights already happening, sussing out who my opponent is. Ah, he's pretty tall, he's pretty big, and man, I felt pretty shit, to be honest, in my first fight. I still managed to walk away victoriously, but I knew that I didn't prep myself well. What advice would you give for someone not jumping into the UFC, obviously, like your clients, but just doing a local comp, just uh, just preparing for it? It doesn't necessarily need to be weight cutting. We can talk about that after, but just getting it right, feeling good on the day when you're
Man,
competing.
I think you touched on so many pain points there that if anyone, or if you have any listeners that do jujitsu, probably 99.9% of them just went, yeah, that's happened to me as well. And I think it's a really common thing, right? Especially because in weight category sports, particularly things like jujitsu, which are same day weigh-ins, we call it. So you've got to go up there, and for certain competitions, you literally step on the scale, the guy ticks you off, and then you go into what we call the bullpen, which is where you go and compete and you can't come out of that. So it's like you do that, and then within 2 minutes, you could be fist bumping and going. It creates this really interesting dynamic then of, okay, not only do I not know what I should be eating to perform, I've got to do this thing where I manage my weight. And it really trips a lot of people up. And I tell all new guys who are new at this sport, I say, forget the second part, forget the managing your weight part, because you need to remember this is a technical sport. And like you just said, you can probably not have that good of a diet. You can probably get away with not hydrating too well. If you're technically superior than your opponent in a sport like this, you'll probably do better. If you're stronger than them, you'll probably do better. If you've trained harder for longer, you'll probably do better. And this whole thing about weight, that, weight cutting that we talk about so much, and you hear a lot of new guys at jiu-jitsu, I want to cut weight, I want to cut weight. It doesn't really make that much of a difference until you get quite far along your journey, where all of those things are kind of matched: the technical prowess, the strength, the time training, all those things are a bit matched. And then something like a bit of a size differential, maybe you can just escape that one armbar that guy had really tight. Maybe you got a better lever. Maybe you'll pass and you'll be able to outmuscle someone and get those 2 points. And that's what, maybe those little things when you're at a black belt competition, maybe they'll come into play. But for the most part, focus on training and get there, and focus on eating good foods for your performance when you're training, and then recovery, and then fuel up when you've got that competition going there. Combat sports are funny, bro, because they're like the opposite to every other sport. Every other sport, say endurance, running, or even football, rugby, soccer, whatever, you load up going into those sports, you fill your body with good nourishment, you carve up, you
You
do
feel your
whatever.
best.
With combat sports, it's like the complete opposite. You just rip and deplete everything, and then people are like, "Oh man, why aren't I performing the best?" It's like, yeah, bro, you just took all the fuel out, and now you're like trying to rev that thing at like 5,000 revs per minute, and it's just got nothing in it. So I say to all the guys, just focus on your nutrition, focus on fueling, forget weight cutting. Weight cutting can come later.